Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We appreciate all comments, whether positive or negative, because it is very important to ventilate both sides of any issue. All we ask is that you observe the YouTube community guidelines. In this video, we will be discussing who can stop the surge that Lewis Hamilton historically puts on in the second half of the season. Whenever he has fallen behind, like he did in 2016 and 2021, he puts on a remarkable surge to overhaul the leader, and but for mechanical failures, official corruption, team sabotage or any combination of the above, he would have won. In 2016, it was season-long sabotage by his team, which included mysterious mechanical failures, random switching of garage crew, and discriminating management. And 2021 was a combination of official corruption and team betrayal. So, we know that all things be equal, Sir Lewis has what it takes to surge through the second half of the season. Unfortunately, like in 2016, we know that his team is sabotaging his season for the benefit of his teammate. Nevertheless, with his typical doggedness, he has managed to overcome their sabotage to overhaul his teammate, and end the first half of the season 34 points ahead. During the first semester, when he was getting to grips with his team's antics, it was established that he had the better race pace, but the various handicaps that he was facing between free practice and qualifying resulted in him qualifying behind his teammate. As we have explained in previous videos, because of all the sabotaging, George finished ahead of his teammate in the first 5 races, but Sir Lewis went on to overcome the sabotage, to finish ahead 6 times out of the next 9 races, to establish his 34-point lead. Now we all know that without some Mercedes skullduggery there's no way George is going to overhaul his teammate. Mercedes have exhausted their bag of tricks, from the mysterious loss of power between free practice and qualifying, to the mishandling of tire temperatures and blankets, to deceptive radio communications during races, and illegal team strategies. The only thing left now for them to resort to when the season restarts is mechanical failure during the race weekend. So, if Sir Lewis starts suffering mechanical failures that only befall his car, we know what is going on. It should be noted that during the 14 race weekends in the first semester, Sir Lewis only suffered 1 DNF, which was due to engine failure, while his teammates suffered 2 DNFs, plus 1 disqualification for cheating. George's first DNF was in Australia when he crashed out on the penultimate lap, and his second was at Silverstone, where Sir Lewis returned to winning ways after Abu Dhabi 2021. During this epic race, once Sir Lewis, who had qualified second but had better race pace, overtook the so-called tyre whisperer on lap 18, because he was struggling for grip once it started spitting rain, his car was retired on lap 34, because of a convenient water system issue. I think one of our commenters mentioned that George retired from Silverstone where he had qualified on pole, because they had overcooked the engine, to give him the extra edge over Sir Lewis in qualifying. 2 races later, when Sir Lewis, who had qualified in 3rd and 3 places ahead of his teammate, was cruising to victory, the team tried to deny him by stopping his teammate only once, even though they knew he would finish underweight as a result. They tried unsuccessfully to rig the weigh-in at the end of the races, and George was rightly disqualified. So, it is clear that Mercedes are desperate for George to overhaul Sir Lewis during the second half of the season, and it remains to be seen to what depths they are prepared to sink to achieve this dastardly goal. The only Mercedes driver that has suffered a DNF because of engine failure is Sir Lewis, so statistically speaking, he shouldn't suffer another one before his teammate. If he does, then we know what's up. As far as the remaining title contenders above Sir Lewis are concerned, Verstappen, the runaway leader, who is 78 points ahead, is likely to cruise to the title unless he suffers a couple of DNFs. He has only suffered 1 DNF to date, but should have been disqualified in Austria for deliberately causing an accident. He caused yet another collision in Hungary, for which he yet again escaped any sanction. But it does appear that angsty Max is back, as the Red Bull advantage which kept him away from close quarter driving, where he is notoriously inept, has disappeared. Should the resurgence of Mercedes, McLaren and Ferrari result in Verstappen having to engage in more close combat driving, then the odds of him losing and crashing out are quite high. So, the first few races after the season restarts will give us an idea of whether Max can come under any serious challenge or not. As far as the race for second place is concerned, that is very much wide open and up for grabs. The current second place driver, Lando Lapdog Norris, as we have set out in our previous video, is at greater risk of being overhauled by Sir Lewis in sixth than overtaking Max for the lead. In the last race before the break, he started in fourth, sandwiched between Sir Lewis in third and his teammate in fifth. He dropped to sixth on the first lap and managed to finish fifth because of George's disqualification. Critically, he was overtaken by the runaway leader, who because of an engine penalty, had started 7 places below him in 11th, while the two who sandwiched him at the start ended up first and second respectively. Now, that is not the stuff of champions. As we have also set out in previous videos, apart from Lando gifting points to Verstappen, his team are also prone to gifting points to the runaway leader, leading to the suspicion that they have done a deal for the constructors' title, in exchange for wiping Verstappen's rear as he continues to potty on the title. Consequently, even though McLaren are favourites for the constructors' title, there's no real expectation that any of their drivers will mount a serious challenge for the drivers' title. This is the only plausible explanation for the switch-around in Hungary, where the team earned the maximum points for a 1-2 finish, while gifting Max 7 points by ordering Lando to hand first place to his teammate. In Austria, they made much ado about Verstappen taking their leading driver and his busy mate and closest rival out of the race, to extend his lead by 12 points, which ultimately amounted to nothing. Their loud protestations in the immediate aftermath of the race quickly subsided once Red Bull and Verstappen called them to order. Oscar, like Sir Lewis, has outscored his teammate in the last 6 races, and is the only other driver to have outscored Verstappen in the last 5. Sir Lewis and Oscar are therefore the only 2 drivers on an upward trajectory, and closing the gap on both first and second place drivers. But, unfortunately, the Liberty Media McLaren Red Bull pact means that Oscar is out of the running even if he is capable of going for the title. There is the possibility that McLaren may use team orders or lack thereof to allow Oscar to get closer to Lapdog if it helps to provide cover for Verstappen's rear. As far as third and fifth place Charles and Carlos are concerned, it remains to be seen whether the resurgence of the Ferrari will continue into the second half of the season. Charles finished ahead of Verstappen in the last 2 races, and has already shown that with a competitive car he can dispatch him to the scrapyard. We have already done numerous videos on Leclerc's superiority over Verstappen, so we recommend them to those of you who haven't seen them. Consequently, should the Ferrari be competitive, then either of their drivers can compete for the title. However, given the advanced stage of the season and Carlos's departure, we can expect that Ferrari, unlike McLaren, will issue team orders to protect the leading driver if required. Charles is therefore a contender for the title if the Ferrari is up to it. The only driver with the experience of overhauling Verstappen, and has the car and the ability to do so, is Sir Lewis. And as we stated earlier, should the other cars have bridged the gap to Red Bull, Verstappen would most likely live up to his reputation and crash out a few times. This would bring him within reach of the chasing pack, and make it harder, if not impossible, for McLaren to continue protecting his behind. In conclusion, we are of the opinion that the 2 Ferrari drivers, Charles and Sir Lewis, are the ones most likely to, and capable of challenging for second position, and possibly the title. Yes, you heard right, the two Ferrari drivers. We have no problems calling a red. Should Sir Lewis start suffering engine problems, then we will know why. Forza Ferrari.